This video will be on writing polynomial functions given zeros of that function. A zero is an x-intercept, and so when we are given the zeros of a polynomial function, we are able to actually write the function that it could come from potentially. So for example, if you have a zero, and we'll say that k is a zero because k would make the function f equal 0. So f of k would equal 0. Therefore, it's an x-intercept. You could write it as like k comma 0. Since it's an x-intercept, it's called a 0. We can write it as a factor. So if k is a 0, then x minus k is a factor of the polynomial. So if 2 is a 0, then x minus 2 is a factor. And if, say, negative 3 is a 0, then x plus 3 is a factor. And we're just going to write our factors, and then we're going to multiply them out, and that will give us our function for a polynomial. So let's try one together. It's going to be the zeros of this function in this example. The zeros will be 4, 3, and negative 3. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write them as factors. So f of x will equal, and we're going to write it as x minus 4, because that's the parentheses that answer would come from, and then x minus 3, and then x plus 3. And now we're going to multiply them out. You can only multiply 2 at a time. My suggestion would be, if you ever have conjugates or pairs where one's positive and one's negative, then what you want to do is multiply those together, because some nice things will happen. So x times x is x squared. X times 3 is plus 3x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And negative 3 times 3 is minus 9. The reason we want to multiply those together is, as you can see, the 3x minus 3x, this goes to 0 and goes away. And now we're just left with x squared minus 9. And we have x minus 4 still. And so we can multiply this out further and get the function that has the zeros and is where it kind of all came from. So foiling one more time, x times x squared is x to the third. X times 9 is 9x, so minus 9x. Then minus 4x squared. And then plus 36. And the important thing here is we want to write the answer in standard form. So that means the highest exponent down to the lowest exponent. So it would be x cubed minus 4x squared minus 9x plus 36. And that's how we would write a polynomial function that has zeros of 4, 3, and negative 3. Let's try one where there are some imaginary zeros. So this example, let's say that we have some zeros, that the zeros are 2 and the other 0 is 7i. One of the things is that imaginary zeros can't come by themselves. So if I say that 7i is a 0, then you need to know that imaginary zeros always come in pairs. We call them conjugates One's positive, one's negative, but they always come in conjugate pairs. And so if 7i is a 0, then you also need to know that negative 7i is a 0. And the teacher doesn't necessarily have to tell you that it's a 0. You have to know and bring it into the problem, knowing that if they only gave me 7i, I need to know that negative 7i is also a 0. So I have 3 zeros here, and we're going to write f of x equals x minus 2, x minus 7i, and x plus 7i. And now we can multiply these out. When you have imaginary zeros, the one thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to multiply the two parentheses that have the imaginary numbers in them, because once again something nice will happen. So let's do x times x, which is x squared, x times 7i, which is plus 7ix, negative 7i times x is minus 7ix, and then negative 7i plus 7i, or times positive 7i, is going to be minus 49i squared. We need to remember that I squared is a real number. Now, I squared equals negative 1, and so you have negative 49, whoops, that's a 9, negative 49 times negative 1, which becomes plus 49. The 7ix cancels out, and so we have x squared plus 49 times x minus 2. And we're going to multiply that out, and we will have our polynomial. F of x equals x times x squared is x cubed, x times 49 is 49x, negative 2x squared, and negative 2 times 49 is 98. So minus 98. And that needs to be written in standard form for a final answer of f of x equals x cubed minus 2x squared plus 49x minus 98. Have a great day.